How exactly did Bill go from a boy in the Louisiana swamps to a high school football star to whatever he is in the present day? Well, let's talk about it.
I know you're disappointed with the way you turned out. We all are.
Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out our Patreon and merch store, and yeah, let's just do this thing. William Fontaine de la Tour d'Autrive, or just Bill. First off, where was Bill born? That's easy, Louisiana. Dale made that clear.
No offense, Bill, you being from Louisiana.
It's also funny that it's Dale who points it out, considering how little he knows or cares about Bill's past.
Bill, I didn't know you grew up in Cajun country, and I don't care.
So, yes, Bill was born and raised in Cajun country, possibly at the family estate known as Chateau d'Autrive, which, according to Google, is French for High Bank Castle, but apparently it translates to house on the high river.
Both of them!
Luckily, we also know how long he lived there thanks to a beer can named Desire.
The D'Autrives are from Louisiana. I lived in the bayou till I was 6 years old.
He was 6, and I'm guessing that's when his family moved to Arlen, and he must have met the guys not too long afterwards, because we see him looking pretty young out trick-or-treating and doing a little hell-raising in Halloween.
Happy Halloween!
Only one.
Come on, push it over, knock it down, quick! Okay, Dale's house is next.
And we see him close to the same age along with the other guys during their Order of the Straight Arrow trip, as well as the subsequent snipe hunt / attempt to get drunk off a Bloody Mary mix in Order of the Straight Arrow.
Yo, I grow up, I'm gonna drink this stuff every day, just like my dad, and fly jets and maybe even be an astronaut.
I'm gonna live in London and be a rich millionaire and have people killed.
I'm gonna sell propane and propane accessories, if my grades are good enough. Oh, kids and their crazy dreams.
I'm so depressed I can't even blink.
We also see a picture from his Straight Arrow days in Straight as an Arrow.
Look how happy I was there. That little guy didn't know it was gonna hit him.
Now, we know basically nothing about Bill's mom outside of it being her that introduced Bill to the idea of eating your feelings.
My mom's fault. When I was sad, she'd give me cookies. But when I was happy, she'd give me cookies. All of my emotions demand cookies, Hank.
So it makes sense that he gained weight due to a combination of eating his feelings, phantom hot dogs.
I just lose control when I'm around food. I don't even know where this hot dog came from. You gotta help me, Hank.
And off-brand double-stuffed Oreos.
Double-stuffed chocolate sandwich cookies? Jacques!
I'm sure his mom meant well when she gave him treats way more often than needed, but it's made rather clear that his dad was not the best feller, and yeah, he didn't mean well. We hear about some of Bill's childhood punishments.
Well, I don't know. My daddy spanked me every day from when I was 9 till I was 16, and I turned out okay. Bastard.
Which included being locked in a rabbit hutch.
He probably misses you, Dale. I know I miss my dad. I can't tell you how many nights he locked me in that rabbit hutch. I deserved it, though. I just couldn't listen.
Being forced to wear pretty dresses.
My dad used to punish me by telling me I was a girl. He used to make me wear dresses. Pretty dresses.
Yeah, that one can also be seen as playing out when Bill has a mental breakdown and begins dressing and acting like his ex-wife Lenore in pretty dresses.
I needed a wrap. It's chilly. Yep.
All right, that's it.
It's quite possible that part of the dress wearing is Bill punishing himself just as his father had. I mean, it's kind of alluded to in the title of the episode.
Dang old pretty Pete, I tell you what.
So yeah, suffice to say that Bill had a pretty bad childhood. Hank even chokes up for a second and makes up an excuse to leave the room, which is what he does when he's about to cry. When he brings up Bill's childhood and thinks about it for a second.
Being dumped on is all Bill knows. First there was that childhood of his. Then he joined the Army and then married that backbreaker, Lenore. Well, I'm gonna go oil the bearings in your suitcase wheels.
Hank, the man who grew up with a verbally abusive Lilliputian lord of chaos like Cotton as a father,
I got my shins blown off by a Japan man's machine gun. So don't come crying to me with your problems.
and a checked-out glass miniature fanatic mother like Tilly,
I'll help you with your dishes.
Mom? Mom, what should I do? Mom?
is moved to tears when he thinks about Bill's childhood. That should all tell us something. It could also be argued that he wants to cry because of what he watched Bill become. We know that as of season 2's The Final Shinsult that Bill's dad is still alive.
Yeah, I know what you mean. My dad can't even load his own hunting rifle anymore. I mean, I got to put it in his hands, practically pull the dang trigger for him.
Sad. Very sad.
However, at some point between then and season 4's bills are made to be broken, his dad has passed away, and he also confirms that his mother is dead as well.
Hey, my parents aren't even alive. Party in my place! Yeah!
And though we don't know much about Bill's dad, that's apparently not the case for Bill himself.
If anything, I know too much about my father. It's all tucked away in the corners of my brain that alcohol can't reach.
So, Bill started off in Louisiana. We see a family photo with him as a child, though I'm gonna say that this was taken after his neck of the brood moved out of Cajun country, and this was probably taken at a family reunion.
It's our last family photo. Oh, that's Uncle Honore after the swamp fever claimed his eyesight. That's me. There's my cousin Gilbert. What a time we had. I would climb trees and swim, and Gilbert made ball gowns out of old mosquito netting.
My family used to have reunions like that where all the kinfolk from around the country got together when I was a kid, but I'm not sure if they're even still a thing anymore. And as far as swamp fever is concerned, that could mean several ailments. But based on the fact that it cost a man his sight, my guess is that Uncle Henri caught malaria, which no, it's not endemic to Louisiana, but cases have happened. It could be something else, but based off what we're told, yeah, I'm going with malaria. A benefit of Bill growing up in Cajun country is that he learned to speak another language, which he apparently forgot he had learned.
Je m'appelle Billdozed. J'aime garde pour ma tante Esme d'Autrive.
Bill, I had no idea that you spoke Cajun. Perhaps that's because I try not to ask you questions.
I had no idea either.
Yeah, I don't blame you there, Peggy. Bill has been, at best, creepy towards Peggy for years.
And don't you worry about Peggy. I'll keep Bill away from her.
And when she's walking, she's looking so fine.
Bill?
Yeah.
So her wanting to know as little as possible about him and not wanting to be around him is totally justified and I dare to say probably recommended.
Peggy would not be included in any guardianship situation.
I'll take the boy. The Widow Hill is on her own.
You got a deal.
All right.
Don't shake his hand. Let go of that.
You got a package, Peggy. I signed for it.
But I was home, Bill.
I know. I didn't want you to be bothered. So what are you doing?
Put the package down.
I may give Peggy a lot of crap, but I would be totally on board with her giving Bill the old Randy Travis treatment.
Cleaning.
How did you get in, Bill?
You gave me a key, remember? When you went on vacation. So I could feed Ladybird.
That was 6 years ago.
It's probably a good thing I held on to it, too. After all, you never know.
I want it back.
Fun fact, Hank is the only one of the guys that only speaks one language. Of course, Bill speaks Louisiana French, sometimes referred to as Cajun French or just Cajun.
Don't me! Tu rappelles-moi? Ah, c'est mon ami. Hank, Peggy, Bobby, Dale, and Boomhauer.
Boomhauer speaks Quebecois French. For some reason, part of me really wants to call it Quebecian French, but it's called Quebecois.
Vous ne pouvez me partir, mon cher.
Chérie, ne nuez pas. Nous avons encore cette nuit.
Faire l'amour à moi.
And Dale speaks Russian as well as knowing how to drive a tank.
Have you also downloaded the classified instruction manual for this tank from Vladimir Putin's website? Took a correspondence course in Russian, translated the manual, memorized it, and eaten it? Have you, Hank? Putin?
All right.
All right. First, nash dessert. Then I, postawić mis lots.
To give Hank some credit, he has learned some Lao simply from Con yelling it at him.
Yeah, I know. I'm a broiled ox penis.
Far as Bill's Louisiana family and family estate, well, his Aunt Esme and cousin Violetta end up dying. I mean, we all do. We're mortal.
What about Aunt Esme and cousin Violetta?
Aunt Esme died of fever. Violetta died suddenly in her sleep. The swamp takes what it calls its own.
As do all the other Dotrieves, many of whom were barren, possibly due to a history of inbreeding. Keep in mind that Violetta was trying pretty hard to hook up with her cousin.
Your cousin is Violetta.
Now, how long you been sitting there?
35 years.
And therefore never made any of their own little Dotrieves other than Bill and his cousin Gilbert.
Let me tell you of our ill-fated kin. Consumption, drink, imposter, madhouse, public madhouse, barren. Well, pretty much this whole left side, leaving only us.
And as far as the family estate, well, that's gone too.
Our land has been sold to be turned into either a water park or a catfish farm. It seems to depend on whether the euro remains strong.
Though we know at some point as a child he learned the Dotrieve family sauce recipe and was given a little bit of advice from his blind uncle.
But, as my Uncle Honore always said, shortcuts taste like chien mort. Eh?
Also, at some point before Hank and Peggy got together, he and Bill used to go bowling quite a bit, though I'm not quite sure how or where that fits in the timeline.
You know, Hank and me, we used to go bowling, and I'd tell people we were brothers and he was better than me, but he'd let me win sometimes, and we'd stay out way too late, and maybe if you bought him another bowling ball, it'd be like before Peggy came.
Anywho, that brings us to Bill and his high school years. The earliest thing we know is that he apparently knew Peggy back in the 10th grade, though they went to different schools.
Remember Bob Cecil, Peggy? You went to a basketball game together? You liked him.
Well, that was 10th grade. No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did, but he didn't like you.
Just saying he would have deserved that. But what we're really here to talk about when it comes to Bill's high school years are what I like to call the Billdozer years, where his official position was defensive line.
Yo, man, on dang old Bill Dotrieve. Man, dang old defensive lineman.
Though he referred to himself as an offensive lineman.
I had the body of an all-city offensive lineman.
Oh, sorry, all-city offensive lineman. And we see him several times playing as a center while wearing number 72, a number typically given to an offensive lineman.
That one man they're like a dang old blitz, man. Don't change plans, man. Fake hand off to Hank, come around, blitz, fake reverse, please, run down, hike.
As well as being the short yardage back and sometimes fullback.
Peggy, a little more than 20 years ago, I set Arlen High's single-season rushing record. Sure, I had legs like a jackrabbit, but Bill Dotrieve blocked for me. And the running back who forgets his front line, that's the man I wouldn't want to have to dinner. Shame on you. Shame on you both.
Yeah, Hank holds the career and single-season rushing records, but we know that in the fall of 1974, Bill set the all-time Arlen touchdown record.
It was 1974, and we were playing the Wauhatchie Cowboys. The ball was on the 3-yard line with 5 seconds left. We needed a touchdown to win, and that's when Coach called for the Billdozer.
So it actually makes sense that Bill and Hank hold the records that they do. We know that Hank wasn't very fast.
Nothing. I ran the 40 in 5.9 seconds, but my fellows haven't reached the end zone in 12 years.
Yeah, that's pretty slow for today. Hell, it's even slower than the average offensive lineman today. And still rather slow for back then. But Hank was quick and agile, legs of a jackrabbit and all that, so he could break runs and make it into the secondary. But because his top speed wasn't that high, he would probably more often than not eventually get run down by faster defensive players, gaining a lot of yards but not scoring. Hence why Hank held the all-time and single-season rushing yardage records, and a good chunk of those times he would have been tackled near the goal line, which is where the Billdozer comes in, and how Bill set the all-time touchdown record. He may not have gotten a huge number of carries, but when pretty much every carry is a touchdown, they can add up pretty quick. I also think it's important to keep in mind that while setting these records and making it to state, the guys were pumped to the gills on speed, or horse crank if you will.
It was easier back in high school when you didn't feel so great. Coach Sowers would just give you some of those go pills and you felt like you could take on the Dallas Cowboys. Man, you talk about them dang old go pills, man, it's talking about that old horse crank, man.
Yeah, Coach's special vitamins really did the trick. I broke my leg going for a touchdown, and I didn't realize it for 2 days. Took 7 police officers to get me into that ambulance.
At some point in his high school career, he and the guys pulled the most Hank prank ever.
Hey, how about that time we snuck into the stadium and mowed the whole field before the groundskeeper could? Oh, the look on his face right before we apologized.
Yeah, we were crazy.
Bill was also along for the ride with Hank and Dale when Boomhauer's beloved car, Miss Sally, took a dive into the local quarry, and it should be added that though the prank gone wrong was technically Dale's idea.
Wait a second. Kid a Dynamite has got it. Why don't we take Boomhauer's car for a joyride?
The seed for that idea was planted in Dale's head by Bill.
No, I wish Boomhauer'd let us ride in his car. How can we be wild and crazy guys if we're stuck standing around all the time?
By the way, Kid at Dynamite is a reference to Jimmy J.J. Walker from Good Times, which totally fits with that time period.
'Cause you got Kid Dynamite!
However, Bill mentioning being wild and crazy guys is a reference to the Festrunk brothers, two SNL characters played by Steve Martin and Dan Aykroyd.
We are two wild and crazy guys!
Problem is, these characters didn't debut until 1977, and the guys graduated in 1975. It would, however, line up with Dale's version of things where their senior season was 1979.
The year is 1979.
And that is contradicted by Coach Sowers, who probably has the date, location, and score of that game burned into his psyche like a brand of shame.
Fellas, my name is Coach Sowers, and I took Arlen Hyde as state in 1974.
This, by the way, gives me an opportunity to touch on something from the Hank timeline video, and that's the fact that Hank's touchdown celebration in the state title game was him walking like an Egyptian more than a decade before that was a thing. Now, some folks have pointed out, which I appreciate, that Hank might have been doing the King Tut dance from Saturday Night Live, made famous by Steve Martin. So Hank still would have been 4 years ahead of the curve, but this is the King Tut dance. This is walking like an Egyptian. And this is Hank's celebration.
That's amazing. I didn't realize people walked like Egyptians back then.
It's shameful.
Notice the head bobbing and walking? Yeah, Hank is walking like an Egyptian, not doing the King Tut dance. Bobby even calls it out and Hank does not correct him. So, according to King of the Hill continuity, Hank Hill came up with walking like an Egyptian in 1974 as a touchdown celebration because I doubt severely that he got it from To Kill a Mockingbird.
What are you doing? Walking like an Egyptian.
Plus, that one was different, but whatever. Anywho, as many have noticed, Bill used to have a full head of hair and was rather fit, possibly why he got the first celebratory kiss from Coach Sowers.
Damn, that man could coach.
How romantic.
Yep, chipped my spine on that play.
Yeah, you may have noticed that Coach Sowers actually kisses Bill on 2 separate occasions. Once after Hank scores the touchdown that gets them to the state championship game, and again after Bill sets the all-time touchdown record. Though to be fair, Coach Sowers sings a different tune when he sees Bill some years later.
Don't Treve! My God, man, what happened?
It was during his senior year that Bill shipped out for the military, cutting his football season short, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. seeing as the Army doesn't send new recruits off to boot camp until after they graduate. And you might be wondering, what about Vietnam? Well, the U.S. pulled out of Vietnam in 73, and they were not sending troops into Vietnam in 74 when Bill signed up. So Bill didn't actually graduate from high school. He shipped out before the end of his senior season.
Yeah, it's too bad you had to ship out before the end of our last season.
Well, country needed barbers, and I was flunking trigonometry.
And we know that he set his career touchdown record in the fall of 1974.
It was 1974.
So if he had stayed until graduation and didn't flunk trigonometry, he would have been part of the class of 1975 with the other guys.
I killed 50 men.
Except this throws a wrench in that.
That ties the record for career touchdowns currently held by class of 74's Billdozed.
Yeah, the same episode that established Bill as a member of the class of 75 calls him part of the class of 74. Now, this could have been an oversight from Tug. That's the announcer's name. He's voiced by the late Johnny Hardwick.
He says aloha to the end zone and aloha to the Temple Tigers. It means both hello and goodbye. My wife is Polynesian.
Or should I say Dr. Tug? I'd rather not, because Dr. Tug just doesn't sound right.
If I had a PhD, I'd stop being a sports announcer and start calling chess games and such.
And it could also be a sign of how little people care about the soon-to-be former record holder.
Attaboy, Phil.
I mentioned his luscious locks earlier, which were cut off when he got to basic training.
And hair like Roger Daltrey.
Except in Be True to Your Fool, we see Bill the day before he shipped out, and he already has the Army haircut. Plus, he was quite the ladies' man.
I'll wait for you.
Boy, that's the third one today.
And none of them is going to miss him more than me.
Or me. Or down, dang.
Also, small detail here, but they misspelled Whataburger. There's only one T, but whatever. We also get to see Bill being who Bill used to be while they were out celebrating his last night before shipping out.
Take it easy, friend. Aren't we all just here to rock?
Boomhauer, get Hank out of here.
Apparently, before shipping out, he was also Homecoming King, which is where he may or may not have met Lenore.
Reminded me of our homecoming court. You were king and that stuck-up Filipino girl was queen, and I stole you away.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Lenore.
Surprised?
Lenore.
Now, according to Bill in I'm With Cupid, they met at a Molly Hatchet concert.
What are the odds of me finding another beautiful, classy lady passed out in my lap at a Molly Hatchet concert, huh?
And if you've seen my video on Lenore, you'll know that I figured out they must have met at a Molly Hatchet concert at Texas Stadium on June 28th, 1974. So it's possible that that's where they met and then they didn't get together until Homecoming, which, if you'll remember from earlier, is contradicted by this.
The year is 1979.
Okay, whatever. So Bill goes to the Army. He enlists, wanting to be a tank driver.
I signed up for the armored division. I wanted to be a tank driver.
But he somehow ended up in barber school. It's not really explained what happened there.
I may not have made it to Vietnam since the war ended right after I volunteered, but barber school at Fort Bragg. Baptism by fire, my friend.
We know that in 1982, he was given placebo injections as part of Operation Infinite Walrus.
Stationed in Alaska and able to withstand frigid temperatures. They called it Operation Infinite Walrus.
Then again, this paper is from 1982 and lists Bill's age as 18, which we know that can't be true.
Now look at me. I'm a big fat pant load throwing up in a sandbox.
He and Lenore got married around 1985. Their marriage wasn't very good, which was evident to pretty much everyone.
We fight so loud all the neighbors can hear. We fight during the day, we fight during the night.
They got divorced in 1991.
I'm Billdozed. I'm a sergeant barber in the United States Army. I'm 5'8" and 3/4 tall. My wife Lenore divorced me in the year of our Lord, 1991. That's about it.
which I think is just when she left him because she left him on Christmas Eve of 1991, considering he says this in an episode that takes place in 1998.
I like to celebrate the anniversary of when Lenore left me 7 years ago, Christmas Eve. Best thing that ever happened to me. Yep.
By the way, Bill doesn't exactly know when the divorce was finalized because he never signed the papers.
I never really got around to signing those divorce papers.
Oh, that's okay. I forged your signature. William in script, Dotrieve in block letters.
He does, however, know why Lenore left him, or at least what she told him.
You said it was because I was fat and bald and I got too jealous whenever you had a date.
Oh, Billy Goat.
But anywho, they were married for 6 years due to them making it to the Wood anniversary, which is 6 years.
Are you gonna give her China, Hank? 20th anniversary China? My marriage only made it to Wood.
So that's where 1985 comes from, and this is what Bill looked like at his and Lenore's wedding in 1985.
My God, what happened to you?
Yeah, I looked pretty good back then, didn't I? Of course, that was before Lenore started cheating on me. 2 weeks before.
Which is odd because Bobby was born around 1986, meaning that this is what Bill looked like around the time of Bobby's conception in 85 or 86. And it could be argued that this is simply how people remember it, but this is a video from Hank and Peggy's wedding in 1979.
And that's after having 2 chickens. Boy, was I drunk.
We know the year because they celebrated 20 years in 1999.
My marriage to Mrs. Peggy Hill. I call it 20 years of outstanding service.
Oh, Hank.
So, video evidence. Bill in 1979, Bill in 1985. Yeah, the math ain't mathin'. Plus, we see him in fit shape and clean cut at every bachelor party, including the one before Dale's wedding where we know Bill looked like this.
I went inside to use the restroom where I was confronted by a horrible sight.
Sorry.
Rock and roll, man!
Yeah, rock and roll!
I suppose I should add that after Lenore left Bill, the guys did give his car a tune-up, so, you know, there's that.
When Mr. Dotrieve's wife left him, we tuned up his escort. And when that little fella from the Fantasy Island died, we put the ant on top of Dale's van.
At some point in the 80s, Bill started to fall apart, mostly due to the toxicity of his wife literally poisoning his soul as she fed off his life force like a blonde, chain-smoking, attention-whoring leech.
I thought I saw a ghost or a horrible hobgobliner.
Then it got worse after Lenore discarded his husk like a cicada on a tree and left him in 91.
Your wife divorced you.
Around 1993 and again around 1995, Bill apparently had a bad time while swimming with a pretty dolphin.
The same thing happened to me 6 years ago. And 4 years ago.
What?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I could get why the Japanese might have a problem with him.
Fuck you, dolphin! Thank you, dolphin!
This also gave us the origin story for his current shirt.
Those hotel guys bought me off with this t-shirt. It made me feel cheap and used, but it breathes nice.
Which pretty much brings us to the show's pilot in 1997, where, fun fact, Bill says the first line of the entire series.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, to make a quick timeline of Bill, it starts in Louisiana sometime in the late 50s, he stays there until he's 6, and they move to Arlen, where he meets the guys, they grow up together, playing football and popping pills all the way to the state championship game their senior season in 1974, the same season where Bill set the Arlen all-time touchdown record, and also the same year he met his eventual soul-sucking ex-wife Lenore, before being shipped out to the Army that same fall. He moved back to Arlen at some point, bought his house on Milton Street, married Lenore around 1985, and she split in 1991. And I think that's about it. Did I miss anything? If so, let me know. I'm sure y'all will. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see y'all next time. I'm gonna go eat some cabbage.
Boy, that cheese.
Only Ricky and I know how tough it is to get this far. He won't let anything stand in his way. Yep. I remember hemorrhaging. embolism, even detached retina. It sounded scary, but when you smell the goal line, they're only words. Just words.